Focus like a monk, escape the distraction trap, and do your best work. Written and published by Fearless Audiobook. Introduction. Take a moment and ask yourself one simple question. When was the last time you gave your full attention to one thing without reaching for your phone, checking a notification, or letting your mind wander? If that question makes you uncomfortable, you're not alone. We live in a world that constantly demands our attention. Every vibration, every headline, every endless scroll promises something important. But while we're busy chasing the next update, something far more valuable quietly slips away: our ability to think deeply, create meaningfully, and truly experience life. The tragedy is that most people don't realize what they've lost until years have passed. They mistake constant busyness for progress, multitasking for productivity, and endless stimulation for happiness. Yet beneath the noise lies an exhausted mind, unfinished dreams, and a quiet longing for peace. But what if the problem isn't your intelligence, your motivation, or your discipline? What if your mind has simply never been trained? For centuries, monks have mastered an extraordinary skill, remaining calm in chaos, focused amid distractions, and fully present in every moment. Their secret isn't escaping the modern world, it's learning to master the inner world. This audiobook is your invitation to do the same. Together, we'll discover how to silence mental noise, overcome digital distractions, rebuild your attention, and transform focus into your greatest strength. Because the quality of your attention determines the quality of your work, your relationships, and ultimately, your life. Your journey back to a focused mind begins now. Chapter 1. The day you realized you couldn't focus anymore. There was a time when your attention belonged to you. You could sit with a book for hours, become completely absorbed in a project, or enjoy a conversation without feeling the urge to check your phone every few minutes. Your mind wasn't perfect, but it was present. It had the ability to stay with one thought long enough to understand it, enjoy it, and build something meaningful from it. Then, slowly, almost invisibly, everything changed. It didn't happen in a single day. No alarm sounded, no one warned you that your attention was being stolen. Instead, it disappeared: one notification, one email, one social media post, and one endless scroll at a time. What seemed like harmless interruptions slowly became the background music of everyday life. At first, you hardly noticed. Checking your phone while waiting in line felt normal. Watching short videos before bed seemed like a way to relax. Answering messages during meals didn't appear harmful. Multitasking became something to be proud of. The faster you switched between tasks, the more productive you believed you were. But something inside you began to change. You started reading the same paragraph 3 times because your mind drifted away. You opened your laptop to finish an important assignment, only to find yourself browsing the internet 30 minutes later without remembering why. Conversations became shorter. Silence became uncomfortable. Even moments of rest felt impossible because your brain kept searching for the next source of stimulation. This wasn't laziness. It wasn't a lack of intelligence. It wasn't because you didn't care enough. Your attention had simply been trained to move instead of stay. Imagine trying to watch the surface of a lake during a storm. Every gust of wind creates another wave. Every wave distorts the reflection. You begin to believe the lake is naturally chaotic, but the truth is different. When the wind settles, the water becomes still on its own. Your mind is much like that lake. The constant stream of information, alerts, opinions, advertisements, and entertainment acts like the wind. Every interruption creates another ripple in your thinking. Over time, the mind becomes so accustomed to movement that stillness begins to feel strange. This is the distraction trap. The modern world rewards speed, but your brain was designed for depth. Every time you interrupt yourself to check a notification, your mind doesn't instantly return to where it left off. A small part of your attention remains attached to the previous interruption. Psychologists often call this attention residue. Instead of giving one task 100% of your focus, you divide your mental energy into smaller and smaller pieces. Eventually, everything feels harder. Simple decisions become exhausting. Creative ideas arrive less often. Motivation fades. You begin confusing mental fatigue with personal failure. Perhaps you've experienced something like this. You sit down determined to work for an hour. 5 minutes later, you remember a message you forgot to answer. While replying, another notification appears. Then a video catches your attention. Suddenly, 45 minutes have disappeared. You return to your work frustrated, wondering where your discipline went. The truth is that your discipline didn't disappear. Your environment quietly reshaped your habits. Every repeated action strengthens a pattern inside the brain. Each time you reach for your phone during boredom, your brain learns that discomfort should be escaped immediately. Every time you interrupt deep work for instant entertainment, your brain begins expecting constant novelty. Without realizing it, you start living from distraction to distraction. The saddest part isn't that this steals your productivity. It steals your presence. You can spend an afternoon with your family without truly being there. You can achieve professional success while feeling emotionally disconnected. You can complete countless tasks but still wonder why fulfillment feels so distant. Life isn't measured only by years. It's measured by moments you were fully present enough to experience. The good news is that if attention can be trained away from you, it can also be trained back. That begins with one powerful realization. You are not broken. Your brain has simply adapted to the environment you've repeatedly exposed it to. And just as those habits were learned, they can be replaced. Every monk understands one simple truth. Where attention goes, life follows. When your attention constantly jumps from one thing to another, your life begins to feel scattered. But when your attention becomes steady, your thoughts become clearer, your emotions become calmer, and your actions become more intentional. The first step isn't downloading another productivity app. It isn't buying a new planner or searching for another shortcut. The first step is awareness. Notice how often your hand reaches for your phone without thinking. Notice how quickly your mind looks for escape when a task becomes difficult. Notice how uncomfortable silence has become. Don't judge yourself, simply observe. Awareness is the doorway to change. A monk does not begin by forcing the mind into silence. A monk begins by watching the mind with patience, compassion, and honesty. Only then does transformation become possible. Today you have already taken that first step. By listening to this chapter, you've paused long enough to ask an important question. Where has my attention been going? That question may seem small, but it has the power to change the direction of your life. Because the day you realize you can no longer focus is not the day you fail. It is the day your journey back to yourself begins. Chapter 2. The Silent Cost of a Distracted Life. Distraction rarely announces itself as a thief. It doesn't break down the front door or demand your attention with obvious force. Instead, it slips quietly into your daily routine, disguising itself as harmless habits. I'll just check one notification. I'll watch one short video. I'll answer one quick message. None of these moments seem important on their own, but together they slowly shape the person you become. The greatest cost of distraction isn't measured in minutes lost. It's measured in moments never lived, dreams never pursued, and promises never kept. Think back to a goal that once filled you with excitement. Maybe it was writing a book, learning a language, starting a business, getting fit, or mastering a skill. At the beginning, your motivation was strong. You imagined the future version of yourself with excitement and hope. Then life got busy. You postponed today's work until tomorrow. Tomorrow became next week. Next week became next month. Before long, the dream was buried beneath countless small distractions that never seemed significant enough to question. One day, you looked back and wondered what happened. The answer wasn't a lack of ability. It was the slow erosion of attention. Every time you promise yourself that you'll begin after just 5 more minutes of scrolling, something deeper happens than simply losing time. You quietly weaken the relationship you have with yourself. Self-confidence isn't built by positive thinking alone. It's built every time your actions match your words. When you repeatedly tell yourself you'll wake up early, study harder, exercise consistently, or spend uninterrupted time with the people you love, but fail to follow through, your mind begins collecting evidence that your own promises cannot be trusted. This is one of distraction's cruelest consequences. It doesn't simply waste your day. It quietly damages your self-respect. Imagine having a friend who constantly makes promises but never keeps them. Eventually, you would stop believing that friend. Surprisingly, many people treat themselves this way every single day. They promise change every morning and postpone it every evening. Over time, they stop believing in themselves. This loss of self-trust often feels like low motivation, but its true cause runs much deeper. The problem isn't that you don't want success. The problem is that your mind has learned to expect disappointment from its own intentions. Distraction also changes the way we experience the people around us. Consider a family sitting together at dinner. The conversation begins warmly, but within minutes, someone checks a notification. Another person responds to an email. Someone else starts scrolling through social media. Physically, everyone remains at the table. Mentally, everyone has already left. Presence is one of the greatest gifts you can offer another human being. When someone feels truly heard, without interruptions, divided attention, or wandering eyes, they feel valued. They feel respected. They feel loved. But in today's world, full attention has become increasingly rare. Imagine a father spending an afternoon with his young daughter at the park. She laughs as she runs toward the swings, eager to show him how high she can go. Every few minutes, his phone vibrates. He glances down, replies to messages, checks work emails, and scrolls through updates before looking back up. Years later, he remembers almost every deadline he met. But he struggles to remember that afternoon. His daughter remembers something different. She remembers trying to get his attention. The greatest loss wasn't productivity. It was presence. Distraction doesn't only steal our goals, it steals our memories. The moments that shape a meaningful life are often ordinary ones: a conversation with a friend, a quiet walk at sunset, laughter around a dinner table, reading a bedtime story, or simply sitting beside someone you love without needing to be anywhere else. If your attention is somewhere else, those moments quietly disappear. There is another hidden cost few people recognize. Distraction fragments your identity. Every time you constantly switch between tasks, your thoughts become scattered. Instead of finishing meaningful work, you accumulate unfinished conversations, incomplete projects, half-read books, and abandoned ambitions. This creates an exhausting mental burden. Your brain continues carrying each unfinished commitment, quietly whispering that something remains undone. Eventually, the weight becomes so heavy that even resting feels difficult. You lie down at night physically tired but mentally restless because dozens of open loops continue competing for your attention. No amount of entertainment can silence that feeling. Only completion can. Only presence can. Only intentional focus can. Monks understand something that modern society often forgets. Wherever your attention rests, your life quietly grows. If your attention constantly feeds comparison, anxiety grows. If it feeds anger, resentment grows. If it feeds meaningless noise, confusion grows. But if your attention feeds purpose, gratitude, learning, and meaningful work, those qualities become the foundation of your character. Your attention is like water flowing through a garden. Whatever receives it flourishes. The question is no longer whether you have enough time. The question is where your attention is going. Every day, life asks you to make thousands of tiny decisions. Most of them seem insignificant, but together they determine who you become. Every moment you choose presence over distraction, you strengthen your character. Every promise you keep to yourself rebuilds self-trust. Every uninterrupted conversation deepens a relationship. Every focused hour moves a dream closer to reality. The silent cost of distraction is enormous, but the quiet rewards of focus are even greater. They cannot always be measured by promotions, income, or achievements. They are measured by something far more valuable: a peaceful mind, a trustworthy character, meaningful relationships. And the confidence that comes from knowing your life is no longer being lived by accident, but by intention. That is the life worth protecting. Chapter 3. Why your mind never feels at peace. Have you ever noticed that even when everything around you is quiet, your mind isn't? You finally finish your work, put your phone down, and sit in silence. There are no notifications, no conversations, and no deadlines demanding your attention. Yet inside your head, another world continues to race. You replay old conversations, worry about tomorrow, remember unfinished tasks, imagine future problems, and jump from one thought to another without control. Your body is resting, but your mind refuses to stop moving. Many people believe this is simply who they are. They say, "I've always been an overthinker," or "My brain never switches off." They accept mental chaos as part of their personality. But here's the truth that changes everything. Your restless mind is not your identity. It is simply a mind that has never been trained. Imagine bringing home a young puppy. Every sound excites it. Every passing bird catches its attention. It runs toward every movement, every smell, every distraction. You wouldn't become angry at the puppy for behaving this way because you understand that it hasn't been trained yet. With patience, repetition, and kindness, that same puppy gradually learns to stay by your side, even when distractions surround it. Your mind works in much the same way. From the moment you wake up until the moment you fall asleep, your attention is constantly pulled in different directions. News headlines compete with social media. Emails interrupt conversations. Advertisements promise happiness. Entertainment is available every second of every day. Your brain has slowly learned that something new is always waiting just around the corner. Over time, it begins craving constant stimulation because it has been rewarded for seeking it. This is why silence often feels uncomfortable. The first time someone decides to meditate or simply sit quietly for 10 minutes, they are often surprised by how difficult it feels. They expected peace, but instead they discover endless thoughts. Their mind wanders from yesterday's mistakes to tomorrow's worries. They become frustrated and conclude that meditation isn't for them. In reality, they are simply meeting their mind for the first time. The noise was always there. Life was simply loud enough to hide it. Think of a muddy glass of water that has just been shaken. As long as it continues moving, the water remains cloudy. But place the glass on a table and wait patiently. Slowly, the dirt settles to the bottom and the water becomes clear. You don't force the water to become calm. You simply stop shaking it. Your mind follows the same principle. Unfortunately, modern life rarely allows the mud to settle. Every spare moment is immediately filled. Waiting in line becomes scrolling through social media. Riding an elevator becomes checking messages. Eating lunch becomes watching videos. We have become so uncomfortable with stillness that we rush to escape it before it has a chance to teach us anything. But stillness is where clarity is born. The ancient monks understood something that neuroscience is only beginning to explain. A peaceful mind is not created by eliminating every thought. It is created by changing your relationship with your thoughts. Most people believe every thought deserves attention. A monk knows that thoughts are like clouds passing across the sky. Some are beautiful, some are dark. Some disappear within seconds, but none of them are the sky itself. Imagine standing beside a busy highway. Hundreds of cars speed past every hour. You notice them, but you don't chase them. You don't try to stop each vehicle or climb inside every passing car. You simply watch them come and go. Now imagine treating your thoughts the same way. Instead of following every worry, every fear, every memory, and every random idea, you simply observe them. You acknowledge their presence without allowing them to carry you away. At first, this feels almost impossible because your mind has spent years automatically jumping into every passing thought. But with practice, observation becomes stronger than reaction. This simple shift creates enormous freedom. You begin realizing that not every worry requires solving immediately. Not every emotion demands action. Not every negative thought represents reality. Many thoughts are nothing more than temporary mental weather. If you stop feeding them with attention, they lose their power and quietly disappear. Another reason the mind never feels peaceful is that it constantly lives somewhere other than the present moment. When you're at work, you think about home. When you're home, you worry about work. While eating dinner, you're checking tomorrow's schedule. While talking to a loved one, part of your attention is planning your next task. The body lives in one place. The mind lives somewhere else. Peace becomes impossible because your attention is always divided. Monks practice returning to the present over and over again. They don't expect perfection. They simply notice when the mind wanders and gently guide it back. Every return strengthens the ability to focus. Every moment of awareness is like another repetition in a mental workout, making the mind stronger, calmer, and more resilient. This is why mindfulness is not about escaping reality. It is about experiencing reality completely. When you drink a cup of tea, simply drink the tea. When you read a book, simply read the book. When you listen to someone you love, truly listen. These moments may seem ordinary, but they retrain the mind to remain where life is actually happening. Perhaps the greatest misunderstanding about peace is believing that it arrives only after life becomes perfect. We tell ourselves we'll feel calm after finishing one more project, earning more money, solving every problem, or reaching the next milestone. Yet every achievement simply introduces new responsibilities, new challenges, and new expectations. Peace cannot wait for a perfect future. It must be practiced in the imperfect present. The monks never discovered peace because their lives lacked difficulty. They discovered peace because they stopped allowing every difficulty to control their minds. They learned that while they couldn't always choose what happened around them, they could choose how they responded within themselves. The same possibility exists for you. Your restless mind is not proof that you are weak, broken, or incapable of focus. It is evidence that your attention has been conditioned by years of constant stimulation. And anything that has been conditioned can be retrained. The journey won't happen overnight. There will be days when your thoughts race, your attention wanders, and your patience feels thin. That is not failure. That is practice. Every moment you notice your wandering mind and gently bring it back, you become a little more like the monk whose greatest strength is not controlling the world, but mastering the space within. Real peace is not the absence of thoughts. It is the quiet confidence that you no longer have to follow every one of them. Chapter 4. Letting go of the need to chase everything. One of the greatest illusions of modern life is the belief that more is always better. More opportunities, more information, more friends, more followers, more money, more experiences, more choices. From the moment we wake up, the world tells us that success belongs to those who do more, know more, and never miss an opportunity. We are encouraged to say yes to every invitation, every project, every trend, and every possibility. At first, this sounds exciting. It feels like freedom. But slowly, without realizing it, we become prisoners of endless choices. A monk sees life differently. A monk understands that every time you say yes to one thing, you are automatically saying no to something else. Time is limited. Energy is limited. Attention is limited. Trying to give everything your attention only guarantees that nothing receives your best. Many people don't suffer because they have too few opportunities. They suffer because they refuse to let go of the unnecessary ones. Imagine trying to catch every butterfly in a beautiful garden. You run from one flower to another, reaching for every colorful wing that passes by. Hours later, you are exhausted, frustrated, and empty-handed. Meanwhile, someone else sits quietly on a bench. They remain still. Before long, a butterfly gently lands on their shoulder. Sometimes the more desperately you chase, the further life moves away. The fear that drives this constant chasing has a name: fear of missing out, or FOMO. FOMO whispers dangerous lies into our minds. It tells us that everyone else is moving ahead. It convinces us that the perfect opportunity is always somewhere else. It makes us believe that happiness is waiting just beyond the next purchase, the next vacation, the next promotion, or the next social media post. Because of this fear, we rarely give our full attention to the present moment. While reading one book, we think about another. While working on one project, we wonder whether a different opportunity would be better. Even while spending time with people we love, part of our mind is asking what everyone else is doing. The result is a life filled with movement, but lacking direction. One of the world's most successful investors, Warren Buffett, once shared an exercise that perfectly captures the power of focus. Imagine writing down your 25 biggest life goals. After carefully reviewing them, you circle the 5 that matter most. Most people assume the remaining 20 goals should become secondary priorities. But Buffett suggested something very different. Those remaining 20 goals are not secondary priorities. They are distractions. Why? Because they steal attention from what matters most. This idea feels uncomfortable because we have been taught that successful people pursue everything. In reality, extraordinary people often become extraordinary because they deliberately ignore many good opportunities in order to pursue a few great ones. A monk understands this naturally. Walk into a monastery, and you won't find people rushing from one activity to another. Their days are intentionally simple. Every action has purpose. Every routine has meaning. They are not trying to experience everything life offers. They are trying to experience each moment completely. This is the difference between living broadly and living deeply. Depth creates mastery. Depth creates peace. Depth creates fulfillment. Breadth without intention often creates exhaustion. Consider a magnifying glass under the sun. When sunlight is scattered across a wide area, very little happens. But when the same light is concentrated into one tiny point, it becomes powerful enough to create fire. Your attention works exactly the same way. Scattered attention warms many things, but transforms nothing. Focused attention changes everything it touches. Many people are afraid to say no because they worry about disappointing others. They accept invitations they don't want to attend. They volunteer for responsibilities they don't have time for. They agree to projects that don't align with their values. Every yes earns temporary approval, but each unnecessary commitment quietly steals time from what truly matters. Eventually, life becomes crowded. The calendar fills. The mind fills. The heart grows tired. Learning to say no is not selfish. It is one of the most generous things you can do for yourself and for the people who genuinely deserve your presence. When you protect your time, you can give your full attention instead of offering fragmented pieces of yourself to everyone. There is another reason we chase too much. We often confuse activity with progress. Crossing dozens of small tasks off a checklist feels satisfying. Answering emails creates the illusion of productivity. Constant busyness makes us feel important, but busyness and purpose are not the same thing. Imagine climbing a ladder as fast as possible. You work tirelessly, never stopping to rest. Finally, after years of effort, you reach the top only to discover the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. Many people experience this realization later in life. They spent decades chasing goals they never truly wanted because they never paused long enough to ask what actually mattered. The monk pauses. The monk reflects. The monk chooses carefully before taking the next step. This is not weakness. It is wisdom. The truth is that your life will always contain more possibilities than you can ever pursue. Accepting this reality is not giving up. It is freedom. The goal is not to experience everything. The goal is to experience the right things deeply enough that they transform you. Imagine a gardener with a limited amount of water. If they sprinkle a few drops over hundreds of plants, none of them flourish. But if they intentionally water the healthiest and most important plants every day, a beautiful garden eventually grows. Your attention is that water. Where you pour it determines what grows in your life. If you constantly water distractions, distractions will flourish. If you water meaningful relationships, those relationships deepen. If you water your craft, your skills improve. If you water your purpose, your life gains direction. Letting go is not about having less. It is about making room for what matters most. As you continue this journey, ask yourself one simple question before every commitment, every opportunity, and every distraction. Does this deserve a piece of my life? Because every yes costs you time. Every yes costs you energy. Every yes costs you attention. Choose wisely. The monk's greatest strength is not the ability to do everything. It is the courage to let go of everything that doesn't matter. When you stop chasing every opportunity, every opinion, every trend, and every distraction, something remarkable happens. Your mind grows quieter. Your purpose becomes clearer. And for the first time in a long time, your attention finally has somewhere meaningful to rest. Chapter 5. The Monk's Secret, Mastering Your Inner World. If you asked most people what makes a monk different, they would probably mention the robes, the monastery, the silence, or the meditation. They imagine someone who has escaped the noise of the modern world and found peace in a quiet place hidden among mountains or forests. But the greatest lesson monks can teach us has very little to do with where they live. Their real secret is not that they escaped the world, it is that they learned how to stop the world from controlling their minds. You don't have to live in a monastery to experience inner peace. You don't need to shave your head, renounce your possessions, or spend years in isolation. The monk's greatest achievement is not found in his surroundings, it is found within him. He has learned that while he cannot always control external events, he can always train the way he responds to them. This is where true freedom begins. Most people spend their lives trying to organize the outside world. They wait for fewer problems, a better job, more money, a healthier relationship, or the perfect environment before believing they can finally feel calm. But life has a way of replacing one challenge with another. Solve today's problem, and tomorrow presents a new one. A monk understands that peace built upon perfect circumstances is fragile. Peace built within the mind is unshakable. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. The wind is powerful. Rain falls heavily. Trees bend under the force of nature. Now imagine a mountain standing in the same storm. The mountain doesn't argue with the wind. It doesn't try to stop the rain. It simply remains grounded. The storm eventually passes. The mountain remains. That mountain is what the monk seeks to become. The first secret of mastering your inner world is awareness. Most people live on autopilot. They wake up, react to notifications, rush through work, worry about tomorrow, replay yesterday, and collapse into bed before repeating the same cycle again. Days become weeks. Weeks become years. Life passes without conscious attention. A monk interrupts this cycle by observing everything. He notices his thoughts before believing them. He notices his emotions before reacting to them. He notices his habits before repeating them. Awareness creates a small but powerful space between what happens and how you respond. Inside that space lives freedom. Imagine someone criticizes you at work. Without awareness, your reaction is automatic. Anger appears instantly. Defensive thoughts take over. Your mood is ruined for the rest of the day. But awareness changes the experience. You notice the anger rising. You recognize the tension in your body. You observe the urge to react immediately. Instead of becoming your emotion, you witness it. That single moment of awareness often prevents hours of unnecessary suffering. The second secret is discipline. Many people misunderstand discipline. They imagine strict rules, endless sacrifice and constant discomfort. They believe discipline limits freedom. The monk sees the opposite. Discipline creates freedom. Think about a musician. Years of disciplined practice allow them to sit at a piano and play beautiful music effortlessly. The discipline was temporary. The freedom lasts a lifetime. The same principle applies to your mind. Every time you choose to remain focused instead of checking your phone, you strengthen your ability to control your attention. Every time you finish an important task before seeking entertainment, you teach your mind that purpose comes before pleasure. Every small act of discipline builds a stronger inner foundation. Eventually, what once felt difficult becomes natural. Another secret monks understand is the incredible power of silence. Modern life treats silence as something to escape. We fill every empty moment with music, podcasts, videos, conversations, or scrolling. If we have 5 minutes alone, we immediately reach for stimulation. But silence is not empty. Silence is where you finally hear yourself. Without constant noise, hidden fears begin to surface. Long-forgotten dreams return. Questions you've been avoiding quietly ask for your attention. At first, this can feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is precisely why so many people avoid silence. Yet every monk knows that silence is not an enemy. It is a teacher. Within silence, clarity slowly replaces confusion. The next secret is acceptance. Acceptance is often misunderstood as giving up. In reality, it means seeing reality clearly before deciding how to respond. Imagine rowing a boat across a river. Suddenly, the current changes direction. You can waste all your energy arguing with the river, wishing it were different, or complaining about the current. Or you can accept the water exactly as it is and adjust your rowing. Acceptance saves energy that resistance wastes. This doesn't mean accepting failure or injustice. It simply means refusing to waste emotional energy fighting realities that already exist. The monk asks, "What is happening?" Most people ask, "Why is this happening to me?" One question creates clarity, the other creates suffering. Another remarkable quality monks develop is patience. Modern culture celebrates speed, fast success, fast results, fast entertainment, fast answers. The mind begins expecting immediate rewards. When progress feels slow, people quit. The monk understands that everything meaningful grows gradually. A tree does not become tall in a single season. A river shapes stone over many years. A peaceful mind is built through thousands of small moments of awareness, repeated consistently. Patience allows growth to happen naturally. There is also humility. Humility does not mean thinking less of yourself, it means thinking of yourself less often. Many distractions begin with the ego. We constantly compare ourselves with others. We seek approval. We defend our opinions. We worry about how we appear. We measure our worth through achievements and recognition. The monk quietly lets much of this go. He understands that constant comparison steals attention from the only life he can truly live, his own. Instead of asking whether he is ahead of others, he asks whether he is becoming a better version of himself. That question changes everything. Perhaps the greatest secret of all is that monks don't try to control every thought. They simply refuse to become servants of them. Thoughts will always come. Some will inspire you, some will frighten you, some will tempt you, some will discourage you. The goal is not to eliminate them. The goal is to decide which ones deserve your attention. Imagine sitting beside a peaceful river. Leaves float downstream one after another. You notice each leaf, but you don't jump into the water to chase it. Thoughts are much the same. They arrive, they pass, and if you allow them, they continue flowing without carrying you away. This is the quiet strength that monks cultivate every day. It is not dramatic. It is not loud. It is not built through force. It is built through awareness, discipline, silence, patience, humility, and conscious choice. Mastering your inner world does not mean life becomes easy. You will still face disappointment, uncertainty, criticism, and loss. But instead of being thrown in every direction by life's storms, you begin responding with steadiness instead of panic, clarity instead of confusion, and intention instead of impulse. That is the monk's greatest secret. The world around you may never stop demanding your attention, but the moment you master the world within, the outside world loses its power to master you. Chapter 6. Healing the Mind Before Training It. Imagine trying to build a beautiful house on cracked foundations. You could use the finest materials, hire the best builders, and create a breathtaking design. But no matter how impressive the structure looks from the outside, it will eventually begin to sink. The walls will crack. The doors will no longer close properly. Every attempt to improve the house will only hide the real problem beneath it. Many people approach focus in exactly the same way. They search for productivity hacks, download new planning apps, buy expensive notebooks, and experiment with time management systems. They believe the answer lies in working harder or becoming more disciplined. Yet, despite all these efforts, their minds still feel scattered, exhausted, and overwhelmed. The reason is simple. You cannot build lasting focus on an unhealed mind. Long before distraction became your habit, something else quietly took root. Perhaps it was constant anxiety about the future. Perhaps it was fear of failure. Maybe it was years of self-criticism, emotional pain, or the exhausting belief that you were never good enough. These invisible burdens rarely announce themselves, yet they consume enormous amounts of mental energy every single day. Think about carrying a heavy backpack everywhere you go. At first, the extra weight doesn't seem unbearable. You adjust to it. You continue walking. But as the miles pass, your shoulders ache, your breathing becomes difficult, and every step requires more effort than it should. Many people are carrying emotional backpacks they have forgotten they're wearing. Old disappointments, broken trust, regret, guilt, unspoken grief, unrealistic expectations. These hidden weights don't just affect your emotions, they affect your attention. A mind occupied by unresolved pain has little space left for deep focus. One of the greatest sources of mental exhaustion is anxiety. Anxiety has a remarkable ability to convince you that every possible problem must be solved immediately. It constantly scans the future, searching for danger even when none exists. Instead of allowing you to concentrate on today's work, it pulls your attention toward tomorrow's uncertainty. Imagine trying to read a book while someone repeatedly whispers frightening possibilities into your ear. What if you fail? What if you embarrass yourself? What if things don't work out? Even if you desperately want to focus on the pages in front of you, your attention keeps drifting toward those whispered fears. This is how anxiety steals concentration. The mind believes it is protecting you by preparing for every possible outcome. In reality, it traps you in endless mental rehearsals that solve very little while draining enormous emotional energy. Another invisible wound is self-doubt. Many people don't struggle because they lack ability. They struggle because they secretly question whether they deserve success at all. Every new opportunity is met with an inner critic. You aren't smart enough. Someone else could do this better. You'll probably fail anyway. These thoughts rarely disappear simply because you tell yourself to think positively. They often reflect years of repeated experiences, criticism, or unrealistic comparisons. Left unchallenged, they become a permanent background voice that quietly sabotages confidence before action even begins. A monk understands something profoundly compassionate. You cannot hate yourself into becoming your best self. Growth does not flourish in constant self-judgment. Imagine trying to grow a garden while shouting at every seed for not becoming a flower overnight. No matter how frustrated you become, the seed cannot grow faster through criticism. It needs patience, sunlight, water, and time. Your mind deserves the same kindness. Healing begins the moment you stop treating yourself like your own enemy. This does not mean lowering your standards or making excuses. It means replacing harsh judgment with honest observation. Instead of saying, "I'm a failure because I lost focus today," you begin asking, "What pulled my attention away, and what can I learn from it?" That small change transforms shame into curiosity. Curiosity creates growth. Shame creates paralysis. Another emotional wound many people carry is perfectionism. Perfectionism often disguises itself as ambition, but underneath it usually hides fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of disappointing others, fear of appearing ordinary. Because nothing ever feels perfect enough, important work is endlessly postponed. Projects remain unfinished, opportunities are missed. Ironically, the pursuit of perfection often produces less achievement than simply beginning imperfectly. Monks rarely pursue perfection, they pursue presence. Every meditation session teaches them that wandering thoughts are normal. Every distraction becomes another opportunity to gently return attention to the present. Progress comes not from flawless performance, but from repeated returns. The same principle applies to healing. You do not need to erase every painful memory before becoming focused. You simply need to stop allowing every painful memory to define who you are today. Healing also requires forgiveness. Not always forgiveness of others, often forgiveness of yourself. Many people continue punishing themselves for decisions they made years ago. They replay conversations they wish had gone differently. They regret opportunities they didn't take. They carry guilt for mistakes that can never be changed. But holding on to guilt does not rewrite the past. It only steals energy from the present. Imagine rowing a boat while dragging a heavy anchor beneath the water. No matter how hard you row, the anchor slows every movement. The past becomes that anchor when we refuse to release it. Forgiveness cuts the rope. It doesn't erase what happened. It simply allows you to move forward again. Healing also means learning to rest without guilt. Modern society often glorifies exhaustion. We admire people who constantly work, constantly hustle, and constantly stay busy. Rest begins to feel like laziness instead of recovery. But every monk understands that renewal is not weakness, it is preparation. A bow kept permanently stretched eventually loses its strength. A field planted every season without rest slowly becomes infertile. The human mind follows the same law. Without recovery, focus slowly disappears. Without stillness, creativity fades. Without sleep, emotional resilience weakens. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is pause. Finally, healing requires accepting that growth is rarely linear. There will be days when your mind feels peaceful and clear. There will also be days when anxiety returns, distractions multiply, and old habits reappear. Do not mistake temporary setbacks for permanent failure. Even the calmest lake develops ripples when the wind blows. The important question is not whether your mind becomes unsettled. The important question is how quickly you return to stillness. Healing is not a destination where pain completely disappears. It is the ongoing practice of treating yourself with wisdom instead of fear, patience instead of pressure, and compassion instead of criticism. Only then does focus stop feeling like a battle. It becomes something much deeper. It becomes the natural expression of a peaceful mind. Because before you can train your attention to remain on one task, you must first teach your heart that it is finally safe to be still. Chapter 7. Falling in love with deep work again. Think back to a time when you became so absorbed in something that the world around you seemed to disappear. Perhaps you were drawing, writing, solving a difficult problem, building something with your hands, reading a fascinating book, or playing an instrument. Hours passed without you noticing. You weren't checking the clock. You weren't wondering what everyone else was doing. You weren't reaching for your phone every few minutes. You were completely present. That experience wasn't an accident. It was deep work. As children, many of us entered this state naturally. We could spend an entire afternoon building with blocks, drawing imaginary worlds, or reading stories without needing constant entertainment. We weren't trying to be productive, we were simply immersed. Somewhere along the way, we forgot how. The modern world has trained us to value speed over depth. We celebrate people who answer emails instantly, multitask through meetings, and juggle countless responsibilities at once. We confuse constant activity with meaningful progress. But the greatest achievements in history were rarely created through fragmented attention. They were built through long periods of uninterrupted focus. A beautiful sculpture is not carved in a rush. A timeless novel is not written between notifications. A scientific breakthrough is not discovered while switching between 10 browser tabs. Deep work asks for something our distracted culture rarely encourages. It asks for your complete attention. Imagine a sculptor standing before a massive block of marble. At first glance, there is only rough stone, but the sculptor sees something hidden inside, a masterpiece waiting to emerge. Every careful strike of the chisel removes what doesn't belong. The process is slow. Sometimes an entire day produces only a small visible change. Yet with patience and unwavering focus, the statue gradually reveals itself. Your best work is created in exactly the same way. Every focused hour chips away at confusion. Every uninterrupted session removes another layer of uncertainty. Eventually, something remarkable begins to appear, not only in your work, but in your character. Deep work changes more than productivity. It changes who you become. One reason people struggle to enter deep work is because they expect instant concentration. They sit down, attempt to focus for 5 minutes, and become frustrated when their mind wanders. They assume something is wrong with them. Nothing is wrong. Imagine trying to run a marathon after spending years sitting on the couch. Your body would resist. Your muscles would complain. Your lungs would struggle. No one would expect world-class endurance on the first day. Attention works the same way. Your brain has spent years practicing distraction. It cannot suddenly become deeply focused overnight. Like any muscle, attention becomes stronger through consistent training. The first few minutes of focused work often feel uncomfortable. Your mind searches for easier stimulation. It remembers messages you forgot to answer. It invents reasons to check your phone. It suddenly becomes interested in cleaning your desk or making another cup of coffee. These urges are not signs that you should stop. They are signs that your mind is adjusting. If you remain with the task a little longer, something extraordinary begins to happen. The resistance slowly fades. Your thoughts become clearer. Ideas connect more naturally. Time begins to disappear. This is often called a state of flow, a condition in which complete concentration allows you to perform at your highest level. Monks have practiced entering similar states for centuries. Their meditation is not merely about sitting still. It is about repeatedly returning attention to one object, a breath, a sound, or a simple awareness of the present moment. Every return strengthens the mind's ability to remain where it chooses instead of wandering wherever distraction leads. Deep work follows the same principle. Every time you gently bring your attention back to your task, you strengthen your ability to focus. You are not failing because your mind wandered. You are succeeding because you noticed and returned. Another obstacle to deep work is our addiction to constant rewards. Social media offers instant likes. Videos provide immediate entertainment. Notifications create tiny bursts of excitement. Deep work offers something very different. It asks you to delay gratification. The reward often comes hours, weeks, or even months later. This is why so many people abandon meaningful work before experiencing its greatest benefits. Imagine planting an oak tree. For months, very little appears above the ground. If you judged success by immediate results, you might conclude nothing was happening. But beneath the surface, the roots are growing stronger every day. Without those invisible roots, the tree could never stand tall. Deep work creates invisible roots. Your knowledge deepens, your creativity expands, your confidence quietly grows. Long before anyone else notices your progress, your foundation is becoming stronger. One practical lesson we can borrow from monks is the importance of sacred space. Walk into a monastery and you'll notice that certain places exist for specific purposes. A meditation hall is for meditation, a dining hall is for eating, a library is for study. Each environment gently reminds the mind what it is there to do. Modern life often mixes everything together. We answer emails in bed, we watch videos while eating, we scroll social media during work. Our environments no longer send clear signals to the brain. Creating a dedicated space for deep work, even a simple desk kept free from distractions, helps the mind associate that place with concentration. Over time, sitting there becomes a cue for focus instead of distraction. Rituals matter as well. Many accomplished writers, artists and thinkers begin their work in nearly the same way every day. They make a cup of tea, clear their desk, silence their phone, take a deep breath and begin. These small routines may seem insignificant, but they send a powerful message to the brain. It is time to focus. Monks understand that repetition shapes identity. They do not wait until they feel like meditating. They meditate because it is part of who they are. Likewise, people who consistently produce exceptional work do not rely on fleeting motivation. They rely on rituals. Perhaps the greatest reward of deep work is not external success, it is inner satisfaction. There is a unique joy that comes from giving your full attention to something meaningful. At the end of such a day, you may feel physically tired, but your mind feels deeply fulfilled. You know you have invested your time instead of merely spending it. That feeling cannot be purchased. It cannot be downloaded. It can only be earned through presence. As you continue this journey, remember that deep work is not about isolating yourself from the world forever. It is about choosing moments when your attention belongs entirely to what matters most. Each focused session is a quiet promise you make to yourself. A promise that your dreams deserve more than scattered effort. A promise that your mind is capable of extraordinary depth. A promise that your life will no longer be directed by every distraction demanding your attention. The world will always tempt you with noise. Deep work invites you back to meaning. And once you rediscover the peace, purpose and quiet satisfaction that come from complete concentration, you won't simply practice deep work. You'll fall in love with it all over again. Chapter 8. Building daily rituals that protect your attention. If someone asked you to describe your life in a single word, you might choose something meaningful, successful, busy, peaceful, ambitious, grateful, or hopeful. But if someone quietly observed your daily habits for a month, they might describe your life very differently, because your future is not shaped by your intentions, it is shaped by your rituals. A ritual is more than a habit. A habit can happen automatically without much thought. A ritual is intentional. It carries purpose. It reminds you who you are becoming. Monks have understood this truth for centuries. They do not rely on motivation to guide their days. They rely on carefully designed routines that protect what matters most. That is why monasteries often feel peaceful. Not because they are free from work, but because their days follow rhythms instead of chaos. They wake at consistent times. They meditate. They work. They eat mindfully. They rest. They repeat. There is remarkable wisdom in this simplicity. Many of us wake up and immediately surrender our attention to the outside world. Before our feet touch the floor, we check emails, social media, messages, and news headlines. Within minutes, our minds are carrying other people's priorities. We begin the day reacting instead of leading. Imagine beginning every morning by allowing strangers to walk into your home and tell you what deserves your attention. It would seem absurd. Yet many people do exactly that through the screens they hold in their hands. A monk begins differently. The first moments of the day belong to the mind, not the world. You don't need to spend hours meditating every morning to benefit from this principle. Even 10 quiet minutes before looking at your phone can change the emotional direction of your entire day. Sit in silence. Breathe deeply. Read a few pages of an inspiring book. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. Reflect on the single most important task waiting for you. These small actions create something incredibly valuable. They create intention. Without intention, your day becomes whatever distractions decide it should be. Another powerful ritual is deciding your priorities before the day begins. Many people keep endless to-do lists filled with dozens of tasks. By lunchtime, they feel overwhelmed because everything seems equally urgent. The result is scattered effort and unfinished work. Instead, imagine beginning each day with one simple question. What is the one task that, if completed today, would make this day meaningful? That question changes everything. Your attention now has a destination. When distractions appear, you remember what truly matters. One example comes from many successful authors. Before opening email or checking social media, they devote the first part of their morning to writing. They understand that their best creative energy belongs to their most meaningful work, not to reacting to everyone else's requests. By protecting those early hours, they consistently produce books, articles and ideas that would never exist if they waited until the day became busy. The lesson is simple. Guard your best energy. Do not give it away carelessly. Monks also understand the importance of transitions. In modern life, we often rush directly from one activity into another without allowing the mind to reset. We finish a stressful meeting and immediately begin another task. We stop working and instantly start scrolling through our phones. The mind never fully arrives because it never fully leaves the previous activity. Simple transition rituals create mental clarity. Take one deep breath before opening your laptop. Stretch for 1 minute after completing a project. Walk outside before beginning another important task. Pause before entering your home after work. These tiny moments signal to the brain that one chapter has ended and another is beginning. Attention follows these signals. Another ritual worth protecting is creating distraction-free periods. Imagine placing your phone in another room for just 60 minutes while working on something meaningful. At first, this might feel uncomfortable. Your hand may instinctively reach for a device that is no longer there. You may even feel anxious. That discomfort is temporary. Soon your mind begins settling into deeper concentration because it no longer expects interruption every few minutes. The absence of distraction becomes a gift. Many people believe focus is something they must force. In reality, focus often appears naturally when distractions are removed. The evening deserves rituals as well. Just as mornings shape your energy, evenings shape your recovery. Many people end their day exactly as they spent it, surrounded by noise, endless scrolling and constant stimulation. Their brains remain active long after they climb into bed. Sleep becomes restless because the mind never receives permission to slow down. Monks treat evenings with the same respect as mornings. The day ends gently. Lights become softer. Voices become quieter. The pace naturally slows. You can create your own evening ritual without living in a monastery. Read a few pages instead of endlessly scrolling. Reflect on what went well today. Write tomorrow's priorities so your mind no longer feels responsible for remembering everything overnight. Spend a few moments appreciating how far you've come instead of worrying about everything left to do. These quiet rituals prepare the mind for genuine rest. There is another ritual that often goes unnoticed: protecting your environment. Your surroundings constantly influence your attention. A cluttered desk invites a cluttered mind. Endless notifications invite endless interruptions. A television playing in the background quietly competes for your concentration, even when you believe you're ignoring it. Monks carefully design their environments because they understand that discipline becomes easier when temptation is reduced. You can do the same. Keep only what you need on your workspace. Silence unnecessary notifications. Place your phone out of sight during focused work. Keep a book within reach instead of endlessly reaching for your device. Small environmental changes often create surprisingly large behavioral changes. Perhaps the most beautiful ritual monks practice is returning. No matter how many times their minds wander during meditation, they gently return to the breath. No frustration, no criticism, just another return. Life works the same way. Some days you will follow your routines perfectly. Other days you will lose focus, become distracted, or fall back into old habits. Do not let one imperfect day become an excuse for an imperfect month. Return. That single word may be the most powerful ritual of all. Return to your purpose. Return to your priorities. Return to your breath. Return to your values. Every return strengthens your identity. Eventually, these rituals stop feeling like rules. They become part of who you are. You are no longer someone who occasionally focuses. You become someone who protects attention. You no longer hope for productive days. You create them. Because rituals are not about controlling every minute of your life. They are about protecting the moments that matter most. The world will always compete for your attention. Notifications will continue to arrive. New distractions will always appear. But when your days are built upon intentional rituals rather than random impulses, something extraordinary happens. Your attention becomes less fragile. Your mind becomes calmer. Your work becomes deeper. And slowly, almost without noticing, you begin living with the quiet steadiness of a monk, one intentional day, one meaningful ritual, and one focused moment at a time. Chapter 9. Becoming stronger than every distraction. Imagine standing at the edge of a quiet lake just before sunrise. The water is perfectly still. Every tree, every mountain, and every cloud is reflected with breathtaking clarity. Then someone throws a small stone into the water. Ripples spread across the surface, distorting every reflection. Throw another stone and another, and soon the lake can no longer reflect anything clearly. Your mind is much like that lake. Every notification, every unnecessary thought, every interruption, every temptation, and every moment of mindless scrolling is another stone disturbing the surface. It isn't that your mind has lost its ability to focus, it simply hasn't been given enough stillness to recover. Most people believe distractions are external. They blame smartphones, social media, noisy co-workers, endless emails, or busy schedules. While these things certainly compete for our attention, they are only part of the story. The greatest distractions often come from within. Restlessness, curiosity, fear, boredom, the constant desire for something new. A monk understands this deeply. He knows that removing every distraction from the outside world is impossible. There will always be noise. There will always be unexpected problems. There will always be people demanding your attention. The real challenge is becoming someone who is no longer controlled by those distractions. Imagine two sailors crossing the same ocean. Both encounter powerful winds and crashing waves. One panics every time the wind changes direction. He constantly adjusts the sails without purpose, loses confidence, and drifts off course. The other understands that he cannot command the wind. Instead, he learns how to work with it. He adjusts calmly, keeps his destination in sight, and continues moving forward. Life offers the same choice. You cannot eliminate every distraction, but you can become a stronger navigator. One reason distractions feel so powerful is because they promise immediate comfort. Important work is often challenging. It requires effort, patience, and uncertainty. A distraction offers something much easier. It whispers, "Just check your phone for a minute. Watch one short video. Reply to this message first." These tiny choices seem harmless because each one lasts only a few moments. Yet those moments quietly reshape your habits. Imagine a river slowly carving its way through solid rock. It does not succeed because of one powerful surge. It succeeds because thousands of small drops flow in the same direction every single day. Distractions work the same way. One distraction changes very little. Thousands of them slowly carve away your ability to concentrate. Fortunately, focus grows in exactly the same way. Every time you resist an unnecessary distraction, you strengthen a mental pathway. Every time you choose meaningful work over instant entertainment, you teach your brain that long-term rewards matter more than immediate pleasure. These choices may seem invisible, but they accumulate. Another reason people lose the battle against distraction is because they depend entirely on willpower. Willpower is valuable, but it is also limited. Imagine trying to resist the smell of fresh cookies while sitting beside a tray of them for several hours. Eventually, even the strongest determination begins to weaken. The monk rarely relies on willpower alone. Instead, he wisely shapes his environment. If a distraction is unnecessary, he removes it before it becomes a temptation. This lesson applies beautifully to modern life. If your phone constantly interrupts your work, place it in another room. If social media steals your mornings, remove it from your home screen. If endless notifications demand your attention, silence all but the truly essential ones. Do not make distraction easier than focus. Make focus the easier choice. There is another enemy of attention that often hides in plain sight: boredom. Many people have forgotten how to be bored. The moment a conversation slows down, they check their phones. The moment they wait in line, they scroll. The moment silence appears, they search for stimulation. But boredom is not the enemy. It is often the doorway to creativity. Some of your greatest ideas arrive not while consuming information, but while allowing your mind to wander peacefully. A quiet walk, a shower, a long drive, sitting beneath a tree. These moments give the brain space to connect ideas in ways constant stimulation never allows. Monks embrace these quiet spaces. They know that wisdom grows where noise becomes silent. There will also be days when distraction wins. You may spend hours procrastinating. You may lose an entire afternoon to endless scrolling. You may abandon important work because it feels difficult. When this happens, be careful not to create a second mistake. The second mistake is believing that one distracted day defines you. Imagine a traveler taking a wrong turn during a long journey. The mistake costs time, but it does not determine the destination. Only refusing to return to the correct path creates lasting failure. The same is true for focus. Do not waste tomorrow punishing yourself for yesterday. Simply return. The monk never expects perfection. He expects practice. One of the most powerful questions you can ask whenever temptation appears is surprisingly simple. What kind of person am I becoming by making this choice? Notice that the question is not, "Will this make me happy right now?" Nor is it, "Can I get away with this?" Instead, it asks something much deeper. Who are you becoming? Every choice becomes a vote for your future identity. Each time you protect your attention, you become someone who values purpose. Each time you finish meaningful work despite discomfort, you become someone who can be trusted by yourself. Each time you return after distraction, you strengthen resilience. Over months and years, these small choices shape your character far more than dramatic moments ever could. The monk's greatest strength is not that he never experiences temptation. It is that he remembers what matters before temptation decides for him. Eventually, something remarkable begins to happen. The distractions do not disappear. Your relationship with them changes. The notification still arrives. You simply no longer feel compelled to answer immediately. The urge to procrastinate still appears. You recognize it without obeying it. The noisy world continues exactly as before. But inside you, something has become quieter. Something has become stronger. This is what real discipline looks like. Not rigid control, not constant struggle, but calm mastery. The kind of mastery that allows you to choose your response instead of reacting automatically. As you continue this journey, remember that your attention is one of the most valuable resources you will ever possess. Once a moment is spent, it can never be reclaimed. Every distraction asks for a small piece of your life. Most are not worth the price. Become the guardian of your own mind. Protect your attention with courage. Choose purpose over impulse. Choose presence over distraction. Choose the life you truly want over the one that constantly competes for your focus. Because the strongest person is not the one who conquers everyone else. The strongest person is the one who can quietly sit in a noisy world, remain faithful to what truly matters, and continue walking toward their purpose without allowing every distraction to pull them away. Chapter 10. Living with presence instead of pressure. Imagine holding a warm cup of coffee on a quiet morning. The sunlight gently enters the room. Steam rises slowly from the cup. The aroma fills the air. For a brief moment, life offers you a chance to simply be. But instead of experiencing that moment, your mind is somewhere else. You're thinking about the meeting later today. You're replaying yesterday's mistake. You're worrying about bills, deadlines, unfinished work, and future plans. Before the coffee is finished, you barely remember tasting it. This happens more often than we realize. Our bodies move through life, but our minds are constantly traveling somewhere else. This is the hidden cost of pressure. Pressure convinces us that the present moment is never enough. It whispers that happiness exists only after the next achievement, the next promotion, the next project, or the next milestone. It teaches us to rush through today in order to arrive at tomorrow. But tomorrow eventually becomes today. And if we never learn to live in the present, we spend our entire lives chasing a future that always remains just beyond reach. A monk understands something beautifully simple. Life is only ever lived now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. That sounds obvious, yet very few people truly experience it. Think about your last conversation with someone you care about. Were you completely listening, or were you secretly thinking about what you wanted to say next? Perhaps your phone buzzed. Maybe your attention drifted toward unfinished work. Maybe your mind wandered somewhere else entirely. The conversation happened, but you weren't fully there for it. Presence is one of the greatest gifts you can offer another human being. People rarely remember every word you said. They remember how deeply you made them feel seen. When your attention is divided, your relationships quietly suffer. Family dinners become silent because everyone is staring at separate screens. Friends sit together while scrolling through different worlds. Parents miss small moments because work follows them home inside their minds. Distraction steals memories before they even have a chance to become memories. Monks practice presence because they understand that attention is love. Where your attention goes, your life follows. Pressure often convinces us that slowing down means falling behind. Modern culture celebrates constant busyness. People proudly say they're exhausted as though it proves their importance. Calendars become full. Notifications never stop. Every empty space is immediately filled with another obligation. But busyness and meaning are not the same. Imagine running on a treadmill for several hours. You sweat, your heart races, you expend enormous energy, yet when you step off, you realize you haven't actually traveled anywhere. Many people live this way. They are incredibly busy, yet they feel strangely empty. The monk asks a different question. Instead of asking, "How much can I accomplish today?" he asks, "How fully can I experience today?" That question changes the quality of life. Living with presence does not mean abandoning ambition. It means refusing to sacrifice today's peace for tomorrow's success. There is an important difference. Imagine climbing a mountain. One traveler spends the entire journey staring only at the distant summit. Every step feels frustrating because the destination remains far away. He misses the fresh air, the forests, the birds singing, and the incredible views along the path. Another traveler also climbs toward the summit. But with each step, he notices the beauty surrounding him. He appreciates the effort, the scenery, and the lessons found along the journey. Ironically, both travelers reach the same destination. Only one truly experiences it. Life works much the same way. The goal matters, but so does the journey. Pressure also grows whenever we compare our lives with everyone else's. Social media makes this temptation almost unavoidable. We see promotions, vacations, achievements, expensive homes, perfect relationships, and carefully edited moments from thousands of strangers. Without realizing it, we begin measuring our ordinary lives against everyone else's highlights. The result is constant dissatisfaction. The monk understands that comparison is a distraction disguised as inspiration. Every moment spent envying another person's path is a moment stolen from your own. Presence invites you back to the only life you can actually live, your own. Another practice monks embrace is doing one thing at a time. This sounds almost too simple, yet it has become surprisingly rare. Many people eat while watching television. They reply to messages while talking to friends. They attend meetings while thinking about something else. They read while checking notifications every few minutes. The mind never fully arrives because it is constantly divided. Imagine sunlight passing through a magnifying glass. When scattered, it provides warmth. When concentrated into one small point, it becomes powerful enough to ignite fire. Presence is concentrated attention. When you give your full awareness to a single activity, even ordinary moments become meaningful. When you eat, taste your food. When you walk, notice your surroundings. When you work, fully engage with your task. When someone speaks, truly listen. These moments may seem small, yet they quietly transform the quality of your life. Gratitude naturally grows from presence. It is difficult to appreciate something you barely notice. The hurried mind constantly searches for what is missing. The present mind notices what already exists. A peaceful home, a loyal friend, a healthy body, a beautiful sunset, a child's laughter, a warm meal. These gifts have always been there. Presence simply allows you to see them. There will always be pressure in life. Responsibilities will remain. Goals will continue to matter. Challenges will appear without invitation. Living with presence does not remove these realities. It changes how you carry them. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack while constantly looking behind you or worrying about the road far ahead. Every step feels more exhausting. Now imagine lifting your eyes and focusing only on the next step directly in front of you. The weight has not changed. Your experience of carrying it has. That is the quiet wisdom of presence. It teaches you to meet life one moment at a time, not all at once. Not months in advance, not through endless worry, just this breath, this conversation, this page, this sunrise, this opportunity. The monk knows that peace is not discovered at the end of life. It is discovered within each fully lived moment. As you continue your journey toward deeper focus, remember that the goal is not simply to accomplish more. It is to experience more, to notice the ordinary miracles that pressure so often hides, to replace rushing with awareness, to replace anxiety with trust, to replace constant striving with meaningful presence. Because one day you will look back on your life and realize that it was never made of deadlines, notifications, or endless to-do lists. It was made of moments, and the quality of those moments depended entirely on where your attention chose to be. Chapter 11. The courage to choose what truly matters. There comes a moment in every life when the noise becomes impossible to ignore. The phone keeps ringing, the inbox keeps filling. The world keeps asking for more of your time, more of your energy, more of your attention. And if you are not careful, you can spend your entire life answering demands that were never truly yours. That is one of the quiet tragedies of distraction. It does not only steal your focus, it slowly teaches you to live according to what is urgent instead of what is important. A monk understands that a meaningful life is not built by doing everything. It is built by choosing wisely. This kind of choosing requires courage. It is easy to follow the crowd. It is easy to say yes when everyone else says yes. It is easy to stay busy, stay available, and stay reactive. But it takes courage to pause and ask a harder question. What truly matters to me? That question changes everything. Because once you know what truly matters, every distraction begins to reveal itself for what it is. A distraction is not always a bad thing. Sometimes it looks exciting. Sometimes it looks profitable. Sometimes it even looks useful. But if it pulls your attention away from the people, values and work that give your life meaning, then it is costing you more than it gives. Think of a lighthouse standing on a rocky shore. Storm after storm crashes against it. Waves strike the base. Wind lashes the tower. Yet the light remains steady. The lighthouse does not chase every ship. It does not move toward every sound. It simply holds its place and shines toward what matters. Your life needs that same kind of clarity. Without it, you become available to everyone and faithful to nothing. Many people live with exhausted hearts because their attention is scattered across too many competing priorities. They want to be good employees, loving partners, supportive friends, responsive family members, productive creators, healthy individuals, and successful dreamers all at once. The desire is understandable. It comes from a good place. But when everything is treated as equally important, nothing receives the depth it deserves. The monk knows that devotion requires boundaries. You cannot pour your life equally into every direction. A river that spreads too thin loses its force. A stream that is channeled with purpose can shape stone. In the same way, your attention becomes powerful only when it is directed with intention. This is why choosing what truly matters is so important. It begins by admitting that your time is limited, your energy is limited, your attention is limited. That is not a weakness, it is simply the truth. And once you accept the truth, you are free to build a life around it instead of pretending you can do everything. Some people are afraid of this realization because they think it will make life smaller. In reality, it makes life deeper. When you stop chasing what does not belong to you, you create room for what does. You have more space to be present with the people you love. You have more energy for work that reflects your values. You have more peace because your life is no longer crowded by obligations that drain your spirit. The courage to choose what truly matters often begins with small refusals. No, I will not give my best hours to endless scrolling. No, I will not let other people's urgency control my day. No, I will not keep saying yes to commitments that leave me resentful and empty. Each no protects a deeper yes. Yes to your health, yes to your craft, yes to your family, yes to your growth, yes to your peace. A monk would understand that every refusal is not an act of rejection, but an act of devotion. It is a way of saying, this life matters too much to live by accident. Think about the people you admire most. They are rarely admired because they tried to be everywhere at once. They are admired because they gave themselves fully to something worthy. A teacher who poured into students. A parent who created a home filled with love. An artist who stayed faithful to their craft. A leader who chose integrity over applause. A quiet soul who lived with dignity, presence, and purpose. None of them became meaningful by doing everything. They became meaningful by doing the right things well. This is where many people get lost. They believe meaning will come from greater achievement, but achievement without alignment often feels empty. They climb higher and higher, only to discover they were leaning against the wrong wall. They spent years collecting accomplishments while neglecting the deeper questions of life. What do I stand for? What kind of person am I becoming? Who benefits from my attention? Where is my heart most alive? These are not questions for a rushed mind. They are questions for a courageous one. To choose what truly matters, you must be willing to disappoint some people. You must be willing to move slower than the world expects. You must be willing to protect your attention even when others think you should be more available, more flexible, more responsive. That can feel uncomfortable at first, but discomfort is often the price of alignment. The life that looks easiest from the outside is not always the life that feels best on the inside. A calendar filled with activity can hide a heart that is lost. A schedule packed with obligations can conceal a soul that is starving for meaning. The monk refuses to live that way. He asks not, how much can I hold, but what deserves to be held? There is great freedom in this question, because once you stop trying to be everything, you can finally become someone. Someone who is rooted. Someone who is intentional. Someone who protects his attention like treasure. Someone who understands that a meaningful life is not measured by how many things you touched, but by how deeply you gave yourself to the few that mattered most. And perhaps that is the deepest courage of all. Not the courage to conquer the world, but the courage to choose your own path with clarity, to love what is worthy without apology, and to keep your attention faithful to the life you were meant to live. Chapter 12. The Focused Life Begins Today. There is an old saying that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. The same is true for your attention. Perhaps you have spent years feeling distracted, overwhelmed, and pulled in countless directions. Maybe you've watched opportunities slip away because your mind was too scattered to fully embrace them. You may even regret the hours lost to endless scrolling, unnecessary worries, or chasing things that never truly mattered. But regret is not where your story ends. Every sunrise offers a new beginning, and every present moment gives you another chance to choose a different path. Throughout this journey, you have discovered that focus is far more than a productivity skill. It is a way of living. You have learned that peace does not come from escaping the world, but from learning how to remain centered within it. You have seen that distractions are not simply notifications on a screen, but habits of the mind that quietly steal your energy, your relationships, and your dreams. Like a monk sitting peacefully beneath a tree while the wind moves through the branches, you have begun to understand that true strength comes from stillness rather than constant movement. The greatest transformation does not happen in one dramatic moment. It happens quietly, almost invisibly, through the choices you make every day. Every time you return your attention to the task before you, you strengthen your mind. Every time you choose silence over noise, purpose over impulse, and presence over pressure, you become a little more like the person you wish to become. These small victories rarely receive applause. No one celebrates the moment you ignore a meaningless notification or decide to spend an hour reading instead of scrolling. Yet these invisible decisions are the very ones that shape your future. Imagine a sculptor standing before an enormous block of marble. Day after day, he chips away only tiny pieces. To someone passing by, it may seem as though nothing is changing. But over weeks and months, a magnificent sculpture slowly emerges. Your life is no different. Every focused choice removes another piece of distraction. Every intentional habit reveals more of your true character. You are not creating a new person. You are uncovering the person who has been there all along beneath layers of noise and unnecessary busyness. There will still be difficult days. There will be mornings when your mind feels restless and afternoons when distractions seem impossible to resist. Some days you will lose your focus, abandon your routines, or forget the lessons you have learned. When those moments arrive, remember the wisdom of the monk. He does not judge himself every time his mind wanders during meditation. He simply notices it and gently returns to the breath. That quiet return is the practice itself. In the same way, every time you notice that your attention has drifted, do not criticize yourself. Simply return. Return to the present. Return to your purpose. Return to the work that matters. As the seasons change, nature offers a powerful reminder of patience. A bamboo seed spends years developing roots beneath the soil before it grows rapidly toward the sky. During those hidden years, it may appear as though nothing is happening. Yet beneath the surface, an invisible foundation is being built. Your focus grows in the same way. You may not notice dramatic results after a week or even a month, but every mindful decision strengthens the roots of discipline. One day, you will look back and realize that your ability to remain calm, think clearly, and work deeply has become part of who you are. Never forget that your attention is your life. Wherever your attention goes, your days follow. Where your days go, your years follow. And where your years go, your life is ultimately formed. If you spend your attention chasing every distraction, your life will feel scattered. But if you invest your attention in meaningful work, loving relationships, personal growth, and inner peace, your life will naturally reflect those same qualities. Focus is not about doing more things. It is about giving your best to the things that truly deserve it. A monk does not seek a perfect world free from noise. He creates an inner world that remains peaceful regardless of the noise around him. That is the invitation before you now. The world will continue to move quickly. Technology will become even more demanding. New distractions will appear every year. You cannot control those things, but you can choose how you respond. You can protect your attention. You can guard your mind. You can decide every single day what deserves your time and what does not. So as you close this book, remember that this is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of a new way of living. You do not need to transform your entire life overnight. Simply begin with the next moment. Take one deep breath. Put away one distraction. Complete one meaningful task with your full attention. Listen to one person without interruption. Watch one sunset without reaching for your phone. These simple acts may seem ordinary, but practiced consistently, they become extraordinary. The focused life is not reserved for monks living in distant mountains. It is available to anyone who chooses awareness over autopilot, intention over impulse, and purpose over distraction. That choice belongs to you today, tomorrow, and every day that follows. The world will always compete for your attention. Let it compete. Your mind no longer belongs to the noise. It belongs to your purpose. And that is where your best work, your deepest peace, and your greatest life will always begin. As you reach the end of this journey, take a moment to pause. Close your eyes if you can, and simply notice your breath. The person who began listening to this audiobook is not quite the same as the person who is finishing it. Perhaps the changes are small, almost invisible. But like a seed quietly growing beneath the soil, transformation often begins long before anyone can see it. Remember, focus is not a gift that only a fortunate few are born with. It is a practice. It is a choice you make every time you return your wandering mind to what truly matters. Some days that choice will feel effortless. Other days it will feel like climbing a mountain. Both days are part of the journey. The world will continue to offer endless distractions. There will always be another notification, another headline, another reason to divide your attention. But you now know something many people never discover. Your attention is your greatest asset. Wherever you place it, your life will grow. So live with intention. Protect your peace. Choose depth over distraction, presence over pressure, and purpose over impulse. Celebrate the quiet victories that no one else can see, because those are the moments that shape extraordinary lives. Like the monk who calmly walks through a noisy marketplace without losing his inner stillness, you can move through a busy world while remaining centered, focused, and at peace. That strength is already within you. All it asks is your daily commitment. Thank you for spending this time with us. If this audiobook has inspired you, let its lessons become part of your everyday life, not just a memory. One focused moment leads to one focused day. One focused day becomes a focused life, and a focused life becomes a meaningful legacy. Your journey begins now.